Communication is power. Those who have mastered its effective use can change their own experience of the world and the world's experience of them. All behaviors and feelings find their root in some form of communication. Tony Robbins. So, good day everyone, and we welcome you to the group presentation of group number 2 about levels and principles of communication. But before we proceed with our reporting, let me first introduce the reporters. We have Miss Janine Shai Isplana, Miss Jocelyn Pamilaran, Miss Adreline Pobe, and Sheena Sabanga. We have prepared here some energizer, and this is called Complete Me. So the mechanics of the game is you just have to complete the incomplete word by using the given pictures as a clue, and by filling in the missing letter, the word will be completed. The participant who gets it right will receive a point. So here are the pictures. Who would like to answer picture number 1? Miss Santos, go ahead.
Intrapersonal.
Yeah, your answer is right. So for picture number 2, Miss Lamban.
Interpersonal.
Yeah, that's correct as well. For picture number 3, Miss Bravo.
Public communication.
Correct. And last picture, we have Miss Handa.
Number 4 is mass communication.
Yeah, that is correct as well. So later you will know the definition of these words. Let me first enumerate the learning objectives. First is to learn the different levels of communication, differentiate their functions and uses in communication, and lastly, to learn the various principles of communication and its importance. Let us start with the 5 levels of communication. First is the intrapersonal communication, which is defined as a communication with one's self, and that may include self-talk, acts of imagination, and visualization, or even recall and memory, cited from McLean 2005. And just like other forms of communication, it is triggered by some internal or external stimulus. For example, we communicate with ourselves about what we want to eat due to internal stimulus of hunger. But what makes interpersonal communication different from any other forms of communication is that it only takes place only within us or only inside our heads. And we all know that other forms of communication must be perceived or acknowledged by someone else for it to be called communication. So you might be wondering right now, what really is the point of intrapersonal communication? Well, intrapersonal communication serves several social functions, since internal vocalization or talking to ourselves can help us maintain social adjustment. For example, a person may use self-talk to calm himself down during stressful situations, or a shy person may remind herself to smile during a social event. It also helps in building self-concept, and we also use self-talk to let off steam, process emotions, think through something, or rehearse what to say or do in the future. Additionally, we intrapersonally communicate for the fun of it, like laughing out loud because of something funny that happened in the past. And lastly, it helps in self-reflection that makes us become more aware or become more competent communicators as we become mindful of our own behaviors. That is the explanation for the interpersonal communication.
So the second level is the interpersonal communication, which is the process of exchange of information, ideas, and feelings between two or more people who live mutually influence one another in unique ways. So to better understand this interpersonal communication, I will give example. So if the student talk to the teacher, it should be more formal, like you're gonna use opo, po, or like sir, ma'am. But if you talk to your friends, it's more informal, like you're gonna tap her shoulder, his shoulder, or you're gonna fist bump like that. So we have four types of interpersonal communication, which is the first is oral communication, which is more in public speaking or by using the gadgets like podcasting or like the phone or like other gadgets like that. So the verbal communication. So this includes the written communication or emails, reports, and for the third one is the non-verbal communication. So this is any type of communication that doesn't involve words or it's just a sign or maybe sign language like that. So the fourth is listening. It is the key part of communication that doesn't involve just hearing what someone says, but also actively understanding what they say. You often hear people thought the importance of active listening or showing a speaker that they have your attention or your interest in what they have to say. So you might be wondering what is the importance of this interpersonal communication. So this interpersonal communication skills can improve your personal relationship by helping you to express your thoughts and convey your intent clearly. So additionally, you'll be able to understand and emphasize your others due to your listening skills. So that's all for the interpersonal communication.
The third level of communication is his small group communication. Three or more people, or let's say 3 to 12, are considered a small group. Communication that takes place between more than two members. Group members usually communicate equally. Communication among small group or small number of people who share a common purpose or goal, who feel connected and who coordinate their behavior. When we say small group communication, it is the interaction between among 3 to 9 people who are working together to achieve an interdependent goal. It involves sending a verbal and nonverbal signal that is perceived, interpreted, and responded to by other people. The perfect example of this is us, your reporters. We are from group number 3, and we are considered a small group because we are composed of 4 members. Before we came up with these topics to be discussed, the PowerPoint and so on, we first conducted a meeting to talk about the flow of the report, and there we communicated as a group. We share our ideas, opinions, and collaborated with one another.
So the fourth communication is the public communication. What do we mean by public communication? So it happens when individuals and groups engage in dialogue in the public in order to deliver a message or information to a specific audience. Public communication is a way for us to be aware or to have an important information to help us stay in touch with everything around us. Those information can come from the government, academic courses, organizations, and political parties, and so on. So the best examples for public communications are broadcast, cable, satellite communication, newspapers, magazine, public speaking events, and billboard advertisements. So these channels are essential in communicating with the public. The primary purpose of public communication is to spread messages to specific group. What do we call it? The correct information. So public communication has these three um general categories. So to inform, to persuade, and last is to entertain. So to entertain, we speak or the speaker speak just to entertain the audience, to amuse them, to captivate their attention, and to regale them while delivering a message. So some speakers try to be entertaining. An entertaining speech or entertainment speech is primarily intended to entertain. Such speeches are often funny, but have the form of a speech rather than a stand-up routine. So it is more interesting because it's not boring when they speak. Next one is to inform. We speak because we want them to increase their understanding or awareness on something. It can also be a type of demonstration. It focuses on helping the audience understand a topic, issue, or technique more clearly. So last one is to persuade. So persuade is a way to get your audience understand the benefits or of a particular change, process, or idea. So to get them to take action in some way, and also we can motivate them in this kind of communication. This persuade type aims to persuade the audience to perform a certain action or to convince them to adopt the belief or opinion of the speaker. That's all.
Next level of communication is mass communication. Mass communication is the process of transmitting messages to a large number of scattered audiences. Through mass communication, information can be transmitted quickly to a large number of people who generally stay far away from the sources of information. Mediums in mass communications include electronic media and print media. When we say mass communication, many people, excuse me, many people in different places at different times can perceive the message. In mass communication, it's different from other levels of communication because in mass communication there is a large audience and there is no personal context or contact between the sender and the receiver. The communication is transmitted through several sources. When we say electronic media, it can now bring everything to you in your home or mobile device. It is the use of television, internet, social media, and radio. And in print media, it is the news of newspaper and magazines. But these days, the source of information that we have is electronic media because we all know that newspapers, publications, and broadcast networks also have their social media platforms to update the people.
That's the end for the 5 levels of communication. Let us now proceed to the 4 primary principles of communication.
The first primary principle of communication is the message sent is not necessarily the message received. The message sent may not be the one received since it must go through the filters of the senders and the receiver's thoughts and emotions. We frequently assume that if someone doesn't understand what we mean or just because we said something or thought something or someone doesn't understand what we mean just because we said something, it's their problem. But however, after all, the sender of the communication is fully aware of what he or she mean or intended. The message intended recipient or the receiver may hear and perceive something quite different. And this is only one of the ways that communication might go awry, not that it's anyone's responsibility. That's it for the first principle of communication.
So the second principle is it is impossible to not communicate. Why? Because every behavior is a form of communication. And also behavior does not have a counterpart. Of course, there is no anti-behavior. It is impossible not to communicate, even if communication is being avoided, such as unconscious use of nonverbal nonverbals or symptom strategy. This is form of communication also. So, for example, here is if we see someone or our classmate sitting in the desk, she is silent but proning. So you're gonna think that, oh, there's a problem. She have a problem. So in the behavior, in just showing her behavior, there's also a communication, even though she doesn't talk, she doesn't give you a what do you call that, just a sign like that, but the behavior itself is showing a communication. So the next one.
So the third one is the every message consists of content and feeling. So then the content is what the message is about. The topic of the message, it is about based on the words used. The feeling is connected to the content. It's expressed through nonverbal cues, body languages, gestures, facial expression, tone of voice, inflection in voice volume. So whenever there are discrepancies between the messages, content, and feeling, confusion is created for the listener, especially if the content and feeling seem to be contradict to each other. Example for this is I'm going to tell you I'm not I'm not mad at you. So um I'm telling I'm not mad at you, but in a loud and angry voice. So that's very confusing, right? So it is a that is the what do you call that? The feeling. So such communication cannot help but result in a certain degree of confusion.
Okay, for the last principle, we have nonverbal cues are more believable than verbal cues. Like we are, I think we're all familiar with the quotation, actions speak actions speak louder than words. So that is the simplest explanation for this one, because sometimes our actions are not as accurate as our or what we say. Like for example, when I say I'm not sad at all, but it shows on your face or on your emotions that you're sad. So therefore, in communication, we should not always put accountability in verbal cues, but as well as in nonverbal cues, to avoid, of course, misunderstanding and confusion between the speaker and the listener. So that ends our group presentation. We would like to sincerely thank thank the participants, our classmates, and we hope you learned something from us. Thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone. Bye
Thank
bye.
you.